Hey, what's up YouTube? Third video, welcome back. In this one, I'm going to talk about how I apply graphics to skateboards. This is the board I'm going to be talking about in the video. I get a few comments on Instagram asking what the rubber stamps are that I use to actually apply the graphics to skateboards are. The answer is these rubber stamps that I carve myself. It's very similar to lino cut printing, so I'm going to go through how I do that. This is just my method. There's loads of ways of doing it, but yeah, let's get into it. So I've already got the graphic I'm going to work with roughed out here. I'm just doing some tidy up in the file and getting it set up for print. So I'm just cleaning up some of the overlaps in the lines and making sure the masks are a bit cleaner before I take it any further. Once I'm happy with the Illustrator file, I like to take the vector and mock it up over a board in Photoshop to get a sense of what it might look like. I'm going to do one mock-up that's really simple, straight up black print on a raw board. I'll put that into another artboard and adjust the hue on that board to see what it might look like on a colour veneer as well. Then I'd like to see where it might go if I decide to elaborate on the design at all in future with a few extra layers. Here I'm going to bring in the board that inspired the graphic. If you haven't caught the reference by now, then yeah, it's a play on the classic Gon's Vision graphic. Anyway, I think I'd like to set this graphic up for a full multicolour print down the road, but I think I'll see how the block cut turns out first and maybe work it to a screen printed board in time. First up, I'm going to print my graphic on some regular paper. I don't really let this paper hang around too long. I like the ink to stay as fresh as possible. You'll see why that is in a moment. This is one of the blocks I carve graphics into. It's an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and I'll use the full thing for this print. These are available from Amazon. I think they're about $50 for 5 sheets, but I'll put the link in the description. The goal is to get a transfer of my image onto the block, so it's easier for me to carve out the areas I don't want to print. To do this, I lay my print right out onto the face of the block, and I'll give it a spritz with some regular water. Then I just roll the back of the paper with a brayer, making sure I don't put any creases in the paper. I tend to keep rolling and spritzing the paper until the whole white of the paper is almost transparent, while allowing the paper to keep its structural integrity, so I can peel it off in one go later on. Once peeled off, the printout will leave behind a ghost transfer of the image, so I have a guide of where to cut with my carving tool. I'll let that dry for a few hours, and then eventually I can start carving the image out. This particular cut took me about 5 hours, and I did it in about 6 to 8 sessions when I had windows of time. I actually like to do this bit by bit. It's a bit tedious, and it can be a bit hard on the wrist, so I find I get a better result if I just take my time with it. I usually start with the outlines of the major shapes or the really thin lines. The transferred image here on the plate or the block is a bit delicate, and if I get a sweaty palm on the block itself, it can smudge the image, making it really hard to follow. So doing it bit by bit and trying to keep my hand off the rubber as I work is the best way I found to get it done. Here I've pretty much got the main outlines done, so I took a break and picked it up another day. I think I spent the full next session working on areas of the type. These are pretty intricate, and I at least aim for the type to be legible. A lot of the small type here are actually just wrote by hand in Illustrator, so it's actually pretty forgiving if I make one letter a bit thicker than the transfer. So I don't need to put too much pressure on myself, and I can just have some fun with it. All the polka dot circles on this one were a bit of a pain, really repetitive, and they came out pretty uneven, but again, I'm just having fun with it and I don't mind that they're a bit odd. Either way, we're getting a hand-finished aesthetic with this process, so I tend to try and embrace that. Finally, I'm going to clear out the larger areas that need to be carved out. I'll use the biggest tool tip for a lot of that to speed things along a little bit. This may have been the 7th session on this before running a few test prints to paper. I think it's pretty much almost ready for a test print at this point. I'll try to clear out any stray areas or high areas once I've done a paper test, because that'll really tell me where those are. Alright, so I'm here in the shop. I have my rubber plate. It's cut to where I'm happy with where it's going so far. I'm not going to cut anything else off it at the moment. What I like to do at this stage is just give it a test run onto some like whatever cheap paper. And this will really help me to figure out where I've got any high points in the cutout areas and if I need to trim anything else off. Get a first glance at the print as it will be on boards. Gonna grab a bit of ink. It's getting pretty low. This big tub has done me like 2.5, 3 years or so. I think there's still plenty in there. Let's go. Alright, let's see how this image comes out. Looks pretty good. See, we've got like a few high points around the A here, the G even. A few little bits to trim off around the T. A little couple extra bits to trim off in here and here. But generally, we're looking pretty good at this. Some high points there. Let me see if I've got my tool around here just to give it a little trim on the fly here. I'll take it. As I thought, a little bit of cleanup around the G, R, I there. A little bit of cleanup by the B, by the T. The more needs to be trimmed off back there, but looking pretty good. I'm stoked on it. First print of this new cut block is just going to be straight up black. Just going to give this a little blast, dry it out, make it tacky. Not too much. Alright, I think we're going for it. Excuse my head. Seems pretty straight. Well, not that straight, but straight enough. Let's go. I'll take it. Alright, that is that. As you might be able to tell, I've given this one a clear coat. It's got a top sheet print too. And this one is being called Done. I'm going to put it on the website in the next couple of days. So thanks for hanging around. If you stuck around to the end here. In other news, I've been working on some other print methods. This one here is my original graphic. This one's been completed with some Posca colors and then a black screen print over the top. So I might go into further details on that in another video later on. How I did it, problems I had, all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, there is now going to be some hoodies on the website. It's got the same design. That was a screen I had made up. Unfortunately, I blew that screen out when trying to print screen boards with it, but doesn't matter. We'll start over, try again. But yeah, I've got a few of those hoodies, a couple original prints that are going to go on the website. So if you like what you see, hit up the link, put it in the description. Thanks very much. I'm out.